It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. I'm sure you saw over the weekend, ProPublica did a deep dive into Project 2025. Some unearthed videos of crazy people talking about doing crazy things, reshaping our government. Now remember, these are the people who say we love our country, we love the country, but we want to change everything about it. We love America, but we want to change literally everything. There's nothing evidently that they don't want to get their little fingers on and, well, destroy. Now, again, their thought process is we want to go back to the good old days, where certain people knew where their place was. As I've been saying, blacks, back in the fields, gays back in the closet, and women back in the kitchen, and this is where they want to take us. And they're open, honest, and very transparent about it. So ProPublica does this nice little bit of going through and saying, this is how they're planning on creating this ready-made government for Donald Trump, because they realize he doesn't really know what he's doing. They realize he's incapable of actually being a leader, so they're going to do it for him like he's used to, someone doing his homework for him. So, I look at this and I keep coming back to this place of they keep talking about patriotism. They keep talking about love of country. But what is it that they love about the country? And, you go through the 900-page document and you look at all of the things that they want to change. There isn't much, I guess. They want this country to be a theocracy. And I've said this for years on the program. They're gonna make Sharia law, a Christian version of Sharia law, great again. We're going to browbeat people. We're going to publicly shame people, and we're going to threaten them with religion. But moreover, what we're going to do is we're going to use government, an activist government, against the citizenry. Now remember, these are the people who told us that they believe in small, less intrusive government. They want government so small they can drag it in the bathtub and drown it, unless it's one that they control. And I look at this moment that we're in. They're exposed. We've got the documents. The papers are there. The videos are there. There are tons of these videos. I forget how many hours ProPublica said, hours and hours of crazy video of these people talking in detail and in depth about how they're going to eviscerate climate change from every document our government has. And one of my favorite comments was a guy by the name of Dan Huff. They got a video of him. He was a former legal advisor to the White House Presidential Personnel Office under the Donald of the Trump. And he said in one of the videos that I found interesting, he's like, if you're not on board with helping implement a dramatic course correction because you're afraid it'll damage your future employment prospects, it'll harm you socially. Look, I get it, he says. That's a real danger, a real thing. But please do us all a favor and just sit this out. So your patriotic duty in their world is nothing. Kind of reminds me of George W. Bush going, your patriotic duty is to go shopping. Now it's to do nothing but allow them, the people who brought us the wonders of January 6th, the people who tried to overthrow the last election, those people, give them the ability to just do what they're going to do, to dramatically course correct. And for you just to sit by and let it happen. Because, that's the best thing you can do. Because if you're afraid that, treason will look bad on your record, if you're afraid that destroying the government agency that you've been charged with running, you think that'll look long-term bad on your resume, just remain silent and sit this one out. That's what they're calling for. And this is that moment where people of conscience. And look, Republicans, this means you. This is your party. These are your folks. This is your ilk, your brethren. These are those folks. Now, you look at the document. They're kind of running a little bit, not releasing the book. Trump is trying to distance himself, even though his vice presidential candidate has written the foreword for the book. His fingerprints are all over it. All Trump's people's, palm prints they're pawing at it because they all believe that this is their chance. This is their moment. This is that moment where they can make history, where they can be the trifold hat, the founders of the new America. And that should frighten us who love America now, because they see things a little differently than the rest of us. And they are ready to, what's the word again? Course correct dramatically and drastically. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, Sarah Burris is going to be here to share some thoughts on her work over at Raw Story. Right back after this.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So some interesting news over the weekend. Maybe you heard about it. Maybe you heard that the Trump campaign claiming they were hacked. Now, I got to tell you, first reaction, not hacked. First reaction, leaked. Some low-level staffer, somebody angry, someone maybe got ketchup thrown at him during one of the tirades, something leaked it. But we'll see. They're claiming it's the Iranians who have hacked into their internal communications. Now look, Trump's completely fine. He doesn't email, so there's probably not going to be anything with his name on it. But the campaign and all of the things that people were saying about him and to him and. Well, here to share some thoughts on what all of that could mean. And understand, this is the third election in a row that you've had foreign actors hacking into presidential campaigns. I'm here to share some thoughts. Our good friend Sarah Burris, reporter at Raw Story, rawstory.com, the website if you want to take a look at their work. Sarah, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, how the heck are you?
Good. So are you buying the Iranian hack job, or maybe I don't know, a low-level staffer leaked everything because he got ketchup on his shirt?
Well, that's the other thing that I think is interesting is they said that it came from a phishing thing, which basically meant that some idiot clicked on a link. And this is the thing, right, that we tell our grandparents over and over and over again. Like, if you're going to use email, do not click on anything ever. And, so I don't know. I mean, this is basically exactly the same thing that happened to, what's his face from 2016. Oh God, I can't remember his name, but the dude who basically clicked on the same link. And, but it also happened in the Trump campaign in 2016. Remember when the Russians basically hacked both the RNC and the DNC?
I do.
They just didn't release any of the RNC stuff. So they've had it forever, right? I don't know if that has happened this time around. I assume that the Harris campaign has all of the security in place, but who the heck knows? And maybe that's why the Trump people evidently don't, is they've always had the hackers on their side, maybe. I'm not really sure.
And this is the interesting part of this, because as you pointed out, back in 2016, there were emails that got hacked. And I remember a presidential candidate going, "Hey, Russia, if you're listening, send it."
And the thing is that it may very well not be a foreign entity, because Trump has lost a couple of people in the last week or so, like Nick Fuentes, the Nazi guy, or white supremacist, or one of those.
Yeah, when you lose when he loses the white supremacist base, that's troublesome.
Yeah, I bet he did not see that coming. Ayo, sorry. Nick Fuentes, Joe Rogan, and Trump is hacked as hell about the Joe Rogan thing. Like, he is not happy about that. Don't you know ketchup was flying? And then one other guy that I never even heard of. So, I mean, he's starting to lose people. Almost lost Kyle Rittenhouse, but they spread some rumor about him that he was going to be a transgender girl. And so he freaked out and came back on board.
No, it wasn't even the transgender girl thing. It was the money. He needs to be able to fleece the flock. And when the flock is coming after you, you got to figure out a way to backpedal so that you can keep cashing those checks.
Well, I think the question is, like, how much money are you going to be able to bilk out of this, right? Like, you killed 2 people. How many people are going to support you from the MAGA world for the rest of your life? Like, you got to come up with some job at some point, dude. Like, he's like, what, 12 or something? He's really young.
His job is to go around he's on the circuit of these right-wing conventions and conferences and all of these meetings. He does a lot of speaking gigs where the right wing takes care of their own with fairly nice speaking gigs, and you could, I guess, make a living doing it. I guess it's what he's been doing. It beats working, I guess.
They certainly don't do that for the left.
No, there is no money on the left.
Right,
I'll tell you that right now.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if this was something where maybe they hired some low-level staffer who was a lot smarter than they thought, or is this a case where, they've got some kind of fanboys from the right-wing nutters who are now all in with Fuentes and anti-Trump. Or was it a foreign entity? And I'm sure we'll find out something, but I bet it won't be till after the election.
Yeah. Now, do you agree with Bernie Sanders, who's saying that maybe the MAGA fever has broken? That maybe we're going to finally get past? Because look, this is looking like what I had hoped for. That you might get some court stuff that's going to happen. He's going to be held accountable on some level, but at the ballot box, the American people, in a sound thrashing, send Trump packing back to Mar-a-Lago or wherever with a sound thrashing at the ballot box, a total repudiation of everything that he stands for. Because look, I've been seeing some of the videos of these MAGA rallies, and people are leaving about halfway through just going, I can't take it anymore.
So one of the things that I feel like we haven't talked much about is that Trump, has kind of gotten a pass from all of this whole, the guy's too old, he's maybe mentally unstable, like something ain't right upstairs. We talked about Joe Biden being unable to tie his shoes for 3 weeks, and Trump held a press conference this week that was a catastrophe. And I mean, the miracle is that the dude didn't light the podium on fire, right? But he lit everything else on fire.
I got through about half of that, and I checked out about halfway through because I'm like, you need new material. I've heard this already.
Fair. I sat there because I was immobilized with my jaw on the floor. And I mean, it's kind of like what happened with the National Association of Black Journalists, where I just didn't expect it to go that bad. And I don't know if it's because I assumed that he had more self-awareness out of somewhere than he ever has in his life. But I think I thought that there were people at Mar-a-Lago, that there were staffers at Mar-a-Lago. And one of the things that one of the pundits on TV said is, that nobody was there because just the podium itself showed it was a Mar-a-Lago club podium. Like, at the very least, if you had a staffer on the ground, they'd be putting the Trump campaign placard in front of him. So it may just very well be that he is completely alone and left to his own devices in Mar-a-Lago by himself. And maybe that's why, he was basically allowed to go on forever. But I mean, the story that I heard, and who knows if this is true, right, is I think they were saying that he was trying to prove to his staff, oh, I know how to do this. Yeah. I'm just going to call a press conference and I'll fix this. Right. And I don't know if that's actually what happened, but it seems like something that he may have said, right? Like, oh, I know how to fix this, and just go out there and just. So I don't know that the dude has much more that he can do. The thing is, too, that he's been running for over a year. So they've had all of these rallies in all of these red states and these places. And so I don't know how you get his base more enthusiastic enough to stand in a 95-degree heat and for hours and hours and hours to wait and stand there in more heat in a rally of a bunch of people where gunfire might go off. It just doesn't seem like ain't nobody got time for that.
No, look, I'm with you. I think he has peaked too soon, and we're now seeing that tumbling happening, which is why the white supremacist guy was saying, I think they're headed for a catastrophic loss, because there is no new material. They have no idea how to deal with Kamala Harris. I saw a commentator said that she's in his head. Yeah, she's living rent free in between his ears, because they have no clue how to deal with her or Tim Walz.
Yeah, and I get not being able to figure out Tim Walz, because the dude is just the sweetest guy in the world. Like, the memes that are going around online are all about. One of my favorites was Tim Walz is the guy who mows your lawn when you're out of town, or he puts your garbage cans for you out whenever you're out of town, like stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of thing that people in normal America really connect to. And yeah, I mean, Kamala Harris is really, really smart. As much as he wants to pretend that she's an idiot, if he wants to keep lowering that bar, I say good on you, because the second they get into that debate and she just smashes him like a bug, he's done. Yeah. I mean, all she has to do is basically go in there and make a couple of good policy points, and she's won because he's lowered the bar so much about her.
Yeah, I liked, she was at one of the rallies and there were people screaming at the thing. She's like, I'm talking now.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really, that kind of motherly, I'm talking now kind of tone, which I find interesting.
And honestly, that's what she did during the vice presidential debate with Mike Pence. That was really effective, because Mike Pence is generally, a relatively normal Midwestern guy. He just happens to be really far right and a little bit loony. But whenever it came to her, he just kept trying to talk over, and she would not allow it. She was just like, I'm talking. Do you want to let me finish? I mean, it was very, I don't know. It was like that. It was like the smarter big sister putting down her little brother, I mean, it was really good. Well, no, I think,
as I said last week, I think we're finally starting to see the first Gen X presidential candidate and vice presidential candidate who, they don't play Mother May I. I thought one of Hillary's problems was, yeah, she was the smartest person in the room, but, she was prim and proper and by the rules instead of, just going full, what was that idiotic comment they kept saying? When they go low, we go high. Yeah. No. When they go low, you stomp them into the dirt.
That's the thing. That was the Michelle Obama-ism. And I really get why she wants that to be the thing. And I get that it's important to teach our children, to take the high road and all of those things. In politics, and particularly with Donald Trump, it really doesn't work. And for folks who write about all of the sketchy things that Republicans do all the time, like me, I have a timeshare in the gutter, right? Like I'm down there and I got no problems with that. But if you were going to be somebody who is a role model for little girls, like I get why you want to be a role model for little girls. I think the difference with Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris is that she has sort of mastered, everybody keeps calling it the happy warrior. Like she has mastered, flattening somebody with a smile. And I mean, I know that Tim Walz has just been a killer at it because he thinks, he's looks like he's just having a good time, right? He's like Mr. Congeniality, in the beauty contest, right? He's happy to be there. And so it really has brought, and I think too, like the fact that this has become competitive, Democrats really seem like they are super excited and enthusiastic, and that is coming so late in the process that I don't know where the peak is because I feel like they're still climbing a little bit.
Yeah, no,
and
we still got a week till the convention, and that you're going to continue to see that climbing happening. The convention, I think you'll hit a stride, and then we'll see what happens after the convention. But in this process,
but Donald is like going down bad.
Exactly. In the process, while they're going up, Trump's still going down. Got no bump out of the assassination attempt. Got no bump out of the convention, and now is spiraling because they don't have a message. And this has always been Trump's problem. He doesn't have a message outside of fear and smear and hatred. What are you going to do to bring down, energy prices? What are you going to do to bring down food prices? What are you going to do? Oh, we're going to drill, baby, drill. Well, okay. Where?
That's the thing, right? Is Joe Biden has really opened up a lot of new drilling sites and approved a lot of drilling permits more so than other presidents, which is why a lot of the green folks and the climate folks are just incredibly pissed because, he's done a lot of green stuff and supporting solar and wind and all of these things, but he's also been digging into as much oil and gas as he can. And so you have to wonder, like, at what extent can Donald Trump go anymore? Like, are you really going to dig up literally every single ounce of oil and gas that we have? And what happens then when all of those resources are tapped out? And we still don't have a plan for,
right,
life after oil.
Well, that'll be somebody else's problem. All they care about, and this is the problem with people with the short-term thinking of our politics.
Yeah.
I just got to get through the next, year or two or three or four, and
the next election. They just got to get through the next election.
That's it.
Basically it.
And this is why we don't get things fixed. Yeah. I got to get your thoughts on the near fatal helicopter crash. I guess there's been a bunch of these, right? There have been a bunch of Trump's, almost been killed. He's averted death numerous times in the helicopters.
Oh man. So this all started with his story at the press conference where he talked about being on a helicopter with Willie Brown, who was a former speaker in California years and years and years ago, but a big deal. And Kamala Harris dated him. And so he tells this story that he and Willie Brown were in this near fatal helicopter accident when he was trashing Kamala Harris to him. The problem is that they were never in a near helicopter crash. And when somebody asked Willie Brown about it, bless him, he just was like, no, and laughed like, oh, that like really infectious, hilarious laugh where you're just like, oh, that's embarrassing, right? Like that, he has embarrassed Donald Trump with that.
And then I saw the comment. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So then it turns out, basically Gavin Newsom confirmed the same thing where he was just like, yeah, he was in California. I don't know what he's talking about because we didn't have any helicopter problems and the dude couldn't remember the town we were going to. But his biographers all talk about there was a story back way in the day when he had the casino in Atlantic City, and he had these executives who were killed in a helicopter crash. And And he created this story, and there are like 6 people who worked for him at the time who confirm that he made it up in front of them, that he had a bunch of people in the office and basically muted the phone and said, "You guys are going to kill me, but I think I can make something out of this." And then he basically told the reporter who was waiting on the phone, "Yeah, I almost took that flight," when it was just complete crap.
Yeah. Well, there was another one where I think it may have been Willie Brown who said it wasn't me, but, we all look alike, which I thought was...
Right. Oh, my God. Bless him. Bless him. Love Willie Brown. You got to love Willie Brown.
So, final thoughts. We're heading towards the convention. We're a week away. Any thoughts of what we're going to see? Any ideas on what we should be looking forward to? What are you going to be paying attention to?
Well, one of my favorite things is that Donald Trump said at his press conference is that he wasn't around doing anything this week because of the Democratic convention. So he thought that this week was the convention and didn't know any better. So I want to see what he's doing next week, because if he wasn't going to do anything, last week, is he MIA this week? Is he still on the golf course? I mean, I don't know. I want to know how they're going to respond to this, because I think what we will see from so much of the messaging from speeches that people make is it's going to be that, yes, we can, positive, kind of, we can do this, hope and change message, even though Democrats are in control of the White House now. There still is going to be this hope and this change message where, we don't want to go back, right? That's the Kamala Harris message.
What I've been saying is they should make the first day and a half all about Joe Biden. This should be an amazing American hero farewell kind of send off. All the amazing things that he's done. This is the path that Uncle Joe set us on, and we're picking up the mantle, and we're gonna move this further down the road and faster than could have ever been imagined. That's where my mind goes, because I think you got a good foundation. We got that infrastructure bill where we're doing something on reshoring manufacturing. There's a lot of things going on. We're going after the Googles and maybe start breaking up some of these big corporations. There's a lot of good stuff, a lot of labor organizing. I say keep that.
Yeah, keep that and talk about what's next, what more we're going to do to follow that mantle.
Going to be interesting. But I look forward to hearing your thoughts during the convention. I'm sure we will be in touch. Sarah, as always, great stuff.
Thank you. Have an awesome week.
You as well. Our good friend Sarah Burris. Make sure you check out their website, rawstory.com, for all the incredible stories that she's working on. Well worth the read. Quick break. Right back.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So NPR did a little fact-checking of Donald Trump's, whatever that was. We'll call it a press conference, shall we? But NPR did a little fact-checking, and what they said is they found at least 162 misstatements, exaggerations, and, outright lies in just 64 minutes. That is more than 2 per minute. And my first thought is, Guinness, anyone? Should we be calling Guinness? Because there's got to be some kind of record. 162 misstatements, exaggerations, or flat outright lies. But, hey, it's kind of what we expect, isn't it? Anybody surprised? No. Here to share some thoughts on the presser, the big convention coming up, and the week ahead. I've asked our good friend Bob Ney to come talk with us. Bob is a former Ohio congressman and political analyst, one of my favorite guys on the planet. Bob, thanks for taking time for us.
Well, thank you, Rick.
So, what do you make of the fact-checking? 162 misstatements, exaggerations, and outright lies in all of 64 minutes. Kind of seems low.
Well, I'm encouraged. I mean, it's less than usual. Aren't you encouraged?
I got to be honest. I only got through half of it, and I did. I got up early. I said I'm going to watch this. I got through about half of about 45 minutes of it, and then I had to turn it off going, I've seen this. It's like a bad rerun. It's like those 3 o'clock in the morning movies that keep popping up. They just keep replaying because they've got nothing else. That's what that press conference seemed like.
Well, there were several motives, for it, obviously. One, Trump wanted to get into the news one way or the other, no matter how it comes off.
And he did.
Get into the news, which, he did. Two, it's to say to the media, look, she doesn't do press conferences. She hasn't went off, quote, teleprompter. When are you going to call her on the carpet? I mean, this is, the theory out there for what he did, which she said the end of August, I think she's going to have some questions and answers and things like that. But that was the other, intent that he had, keep his name out there and then show that he can do this. She doesn't. Look, there's going to still be this honeymoon period, of course, with the convention. Still in battleground states. I was looking at Clear Politics report. He is still ahead. She's ahead in a couple of them. So, we're looking at the polling. But as far as Trump's concerned, he's going to probably every 3 days attempt to do something, to keep themselves in the news. J.D. Vance was on Sunday show today, so they're going to do things like that.
Yeah, but it seems odd to me that Trump is basically locked himself there in Mar-a-Lago, and he said we're doing commercials, we're doing the best commercials,
right.
Commercials like you've never seen before,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just going, you mean ones with lies?
I think that he's just taking some time off. I think they're probably having strategy sessions, and also there's only so much you can do when you have an event like this where you have a new candidate. Again, I think there's only so much you can do. And the press conference was his attempt to keep, his name out there and some fresh, publicity.
Yeah, stay a little relevant, maybe.
A little bit.
But, I'm looking at this and going, he seems to be heading in the wrong direction while, her and Walz seem to be getting more energy, more the crowds. This has got to be something that's just, a burr in his saddle that Harris's crowds are so much bigger than Donald Trump's.
Well, he obviously reacted. You could see it physically when they asked him a question about the crowds, and then during that question answer press conference, he made the statement to compare his crowds to Martin Luther King Jr., which is just never good to do. All right. You want to say you've got a big crowd, do it, but don't compare it to I've got a dream speech. I mean, you don't do that.
Well, that's his I got a crowd speech.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And, so that was a bad move. But she knows how to push his buttons. And then the new excitement obviously is a boon for her, and it's a benefit. And it's getting to him because really this is the first opponent that could draw crowds. If you look back historically, Hillary had some problems with it, and Biden definitely. And now Harris is on the scene with these new energized crowds, and I think it's going to continue. So he reacted obviously bad to it.
No, she is definitely living rent-free between his ears. And now we see President Biden saying he's going to come out and start the campaign in Pennsylvania, I guess, is where they're going to use him. Do you think he will be helpful on the campaign trail from this point forward? Because his approval ratings have actually popped up a little bit.
He'll be okay, but they're going to need to keep him on script. I wouldn't do any impromptus with him if I were the campaign people. But they'll have to bring him out because they obviously should utilize former President Obama. No question about that. And you can't just bring President Obama out and not have brought President Biden out. And he's going to open, kind of a kickoff Pennsylvania thing, I guess you'd call it. So it's okay. Again, I think, though, that he needs to, at a political event, stay completely on track. You don't want a bunch of questions about world affairs or whatever else. while he's doing that. So give the speech, and then that's it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got to have his face out there, but you're right. I mean, the energy that's out there right now, I don't know that he can build on that at all.
Right.
But going into the convention, and I've been saying, and I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think the first day, at least the first 2 days, this should be all about, being effusive with praise for Joe Biden. Basically give him a hero's send off. By saying, hey, look at this incredible legislative accomplishments. Look at this presidency, build that up, and then talk about moving that forward, and with all the the trimmings and the hope and the change and all of that. I think that's what I'd like to see.
Well, he's going to open the convention. I'm sure they're going to have. I know they'll have a tribute, to him, and there'll be some type of closing deal. I don't think necessarily he'll be up on the stage after the nominee and the VP are there with the families. Traditionally, he might be, but President Biden's going to have a more sympathetic look towards him because he's not going to be president next year. He stepped out of the campaign process, and so now people look at him. I mean, it's basically there's no Joe. What Nixon say? You don't have Nixon to beat around anymore, or whatever.
You got him to kick around.
So it's Biden's not running, and who's going to really kick him? So he's going to be in a favorable position, I think.
No, it'll be interesting to see how they roll that out and what that looks like.
Oh, they'll do something.
Because look, I think his accomplishments need to be highlighted because that's got to be her, her running. That's what we're picking up this mantle and moving it forward. Now I read a story, not too long, just the other day, that was saying the reason that Biden, finally decided to step down is the concern of, the down ticket races, that he was going to be a distraction in that. Do we buy in any of that?
Yeah, I do. I think in the end, most likely, this is just my gut, the weighing in by Pelosi, Schumer, and Obama. Now his wife is important, too. But the weighing in by, I think, those three, I think Schumer went and personally sat with him. I think that had a significant impact on him. And I'm sure they were talking about, the effect of down ticket, but, he's had a good presidency, et cetera. But the closeness of he and Pelosi and Schumer for 30 years, and he was Obama's VP. So I think that the thoughts of those three probably weighed pretty heavily with the president.
No, I think ultimately, he made the right choice. I mean, look, the energy that's just exploded since that announcement is going to give. There's hope and optimism where there hadn't been before, and this idea that maybe we can, maybe not destroy the country is kind of a good thing, I think.
It is. Now, one thing about the convention I'm curious about is to see the disruption level that's out there, whether it's contained, whether it maybe doesn't pop up like it was going to because of now Kamala Harris's nomination. So that may subside a bit. I'm curious to see what's going to happen this week.
No, I'm curious to see what's going to happen outside of it because, it appears to me some of the Iran money has dried up, which is why I haven't seen a lot of the organizing around the Palestine-Israel thing that we saw several months ago. And well, let me ask you that because clearly you're the expert on this. How much do you think Iran had to do with all of the organizing that was going on here around Palestine and Israel?
I think it had something to do with it, but also there were advocacy groups that were well funded internally in America, American sources. They were added to it. I think it was a conglomerate of things. Iran was a factor, some American advocacy groups that, support the issue. And then also, and it has calmed down a bit, but also, Rick, the, TikTok and Instagram and all of the social media, it almost became, I'm not saying people weren't sincere about the issue, but it almost became a young person's fad, a celeb cause for the day.
Yeah.
It almost became that due to the electronic media and the social media. I think that was part of it too.
So are you expecting a big to do at the convention, or do you think this will be tapped down? Because look, maybe I'm misreading this, but I don't see the same kind of energy around that issue that I saw 3 months ago.
Well, and I think it'll be tapped down because of Kamala Harris and Walz is why I think that it'll be tapped down. There'll still be people passionate about this issue. There's still going to be incidents which just occurred yesterday over in Israel that are going to be definitely scrutinized and protested. But I think that because of Harris's statements when she was with Netanyahu publicly, she didn't hide anything. I think some of that maybe would also be the reason that some of this has simmered down a bit.
It'll be interesting to see because I'm excited to go to the convention. We're going to be there. We're going to be broadcasting from the convention, right. and being able to talk to people there and get kind of a sense. I'm already told that it's Chicago, downtown Chicago is almost an armed camp right now. That getting around is just going to be a nightmare. So we'll see how that plays, but it's kind of what I'm told to pay attention for.
Well, also the Democrat National Committee has certified 200, I don't know what I call them, content creators, YouTube celebrities or whatever you want to call them, creative people that go online and go on TikTok, etc., Instagram. But they've certified 200 of them. And that will add a pretty big social media impact to the convention also.
Yeah, again, this is... It's going to be an exciting convention, I think. I'll tell you, I was not overly looking forward to it a couple of months ago, but now with this new energy, this new kind of, you said this, some young folks get involved. I'm kind of excited about it.
And I don't see any major form of dissension within the convention. I think it'll be a honeymoon. The Republican convention was a honeymoon for Trump, and this one will have more excitement to it because there's a new candidate, and the fact that she's already certified, through the virtual nomination process, so there are no surprises there. I don't expect anything inside that's going to be, a disaster for the campaign whatsoever.
Yeah, so nothing. I mean, no excitement, no predictions, no doomsday, nothing.
No, it's going to be exciting. I just don't think that it would have been if it had been Biden, where I think you'd have some dissension within the ranks there. With Harris, the virtual nomination went 99.9%.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the debates. Evidently there have been some agreements. I guess the 10th is still in place, but not the Fox News one. Am I getting this right?
This has went back and forth. There was going to be a Fox News or nothing. Then the ABC 10th is on. Then there had to have been he would do the 10th if she agreed to the other ones, and that didn't happen. So the 10th is on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, but I'm really looking forward to the vice presidential debate.
Me too. I am.
That's going to be, I think, going to be the interesting one.
Right, and Walz is good on his feet. He's been around, 12 years in the House, governor. Vance is new to the system. Walz has a memory and a history. So this is going to be. I agree with you. It's going to be much more interesting debate than normal.
So last question I've got for you, because this is a truncated campaign. Couldn't we do this? I don't know, for future campaigns, a couple months beforehand. Enough of this 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Trump's been running for 2024 for the last 8 years. I mean, it's the same shtick. It's the same ridiculous statements. It's the same craziness. At some point, I'm tired.
Well, look, within the campaign, there has to be, as we sit here tonight in the campaign headquarters, there has to be raging debates because Trump, came out with is she black or not, and she doesn't think she's black, etc. That went down like a lead balloon in every circle. Then they tried the DEI deal, and I think even Speaker Johnson said, get off of that, right? So then you go back to the stolen election, etc. And now you're starting to see the fringes, this is what I think, of them saying, foreign sources are trying to control this election, so if it's lost, the quote, foreigners did it. Now, Kamala Harris has taken a very interesting tact to drop the Joe Biden, January 6th was the end of the country as we know it. She's dropped that. She's going into democracy and a future for America, but she's dropped that, mantra about Trump, January 6th, et cetera. So the Harris campaign has adapted, to some new things. Also, they're having fun. They're making fun of Trump, with the weird comments, et cetera. So they're doing a little bit of that. But the Trump campaign had continued in the last 2.5 weeks to run as if it's, Joe Biden in a sense. And so the Trump campaign is going to have to come to terms quickly, especially right after the Democrat National Convention, have to come to terms with issues. They have to. The name calling, is she black or not? The race stuff, the female things, it's not going to sell. And people are going to get tired of the entire process. So they have to either change their stripes or they're not going to make any headway. That's the Trump campaign.
Yeah. No, well, we're going to see. We're going to see how this plays. And you'll be here to help us work through it. But as always, Bob, I appreciate the time. Good stuff.
Thank you, Rick.
Our good friend Bob Ney. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back after this. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1919. That was the day that the chorus girls of the Ziegfeld Follies formed a union. They called their organization the Chorus Equity Association. The Ziegfeld Follies were the hottest ticket on Broadway during the early 1900s. The show was most famous for their chorus girls in elaborate costumes, bedecked with feathers and sparkles. In 1919, performers on Broadway as well as Chicago were standing up for fairer wages and better treatment on the job. The Actors Equity Association's contract had expired, and the actors demanded a fair contract. The producers banded together into the Producing Managers Association. Actors and producers faced off. The actors held a meeting and decided not to go on stage unless the contract was settled. Membership in the union swelled. 12 shows in New York alone were canceled. When Florence Ziegfeld, the head of the Ziegfeld Follies, joined the producers group, the chorus girls took this as a bad sign. They decided it was time they, too, joined the union movement. A former chorus girl named Marie Dressler was elected the first union president. The chorus girls joined the striking actors for a march down Broadway. The Ziegfeld performers formally went out on strike, and the curtain fell on the Follies. Chicago theaters also went dark. In all, 37 productions were shut down in the two cities. Finally, on September 7th, the strike was settled and the Follies returned. In 1955, Chorus Equity merged with the Actors Equity Association.
Here's to the beautiful ladies.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So as I said, I'm looking forward to the convention in Chicago. I think it's going to be an interesting time. I think we'll have the opportunity to talk about the direction that we want to see the country go. And look, I think Joe Biden has done a very good job. I think he's done a great job. I think history is going to smile upon the Biden administration and the direction that he has steered the ship. And if Kamala Harris picks up the mantle and Tim Walz pick up the mantle and they move in the direction that we're going, I think good things are going to happen. Now, I had someone the other day ask me, why are you so effusive with praise for Tim Walz? And look, I think Tim Walz is a good guy. I think he is a decent guy. I think he is, as I said last week, radically normal, extremely radically normal. The kind of guy that you want as a neighbor. The kind of guy that's going to, if he doesn't see you for a while, come knock on the door, see if you're okay. Those are the kind of people, neighbors, good people. And one of those folks, and the reason I like him so much is one of those guys who has seen some stuff in his life, has had some turmoil, has had some tragedy, and has fought his way through, gotten his way through, and remembered where he came from. And remembered what it took, and then tried to make the path a little bit easier. Now, I've had a couple of people reach out and say, I listened to that Tim Walz. Sounds an awful lot like you. I go, yeah, Gen X guy, remembers where he comes from, wants to help others, cares about others, especially, poor people like I was, and like the struggles that he had. And the fact that, nothing came easy. And that, because you get this Horatio Alger thing. I pulled myself up. I did. I get this all the time from people. I did this. I built this, and I did these wonderful things, and I did all this stuff, and I had to work hard, and I had to struggle. So should they. And there are those of us who go, yeah, we did struggle. We did have it hard. But we would like that person coming behind us, maybe not to have to struggle so hard. I think about the kids that have grown up in the place that I grew up in. I think about the people who are living in that housing project that I grew up in, and want to make sure that they have opportunities to at least do as well as I have done. And maybe a little bit easier, maybe with a little bit of a helping hand. And maybe that's just naive. Maybe it's, maybe it's not the right idea. Maybe, because, it's the, I love this argument. It's the struggle and the sacrifice that hardens a man, that makes them appreciate, which I think is a bunch of bunk. A lot of that is just, nonsense. But I look at Tim Walz and I see a guy who, his father passed when he was young. He joined the military to get a college education, like a lot of people. In fact, I was talking to somebody today about, where I grew up. And I said, generally, where I grew up, there were only a couple of ways to get out. You were, a really, really good athlete, and you were able to get a scholarship, and you got out. You joined the military. You went to jail, or you died, or someone died. And there weren't a lot of other options, or you got a good union job that gave you the ability to get out. But unfortunately, that wasn't enough of that. And I think back to some of those moments where it shouldn't have been so difficult. There shouldn't have been so many obstacles. Education shouldn't be something that you have to I think back to when I first it was either I had money and no time, or time and no money. They never seemed to line up together, which would have made life a little bit easier. So when I see an opportunity to help someone to make their lives a little bit better, maybe a little bit easier of a path to get to a better place, and I see a politician who's saying maybe we should be doing those things, I get behind him. And that's why I've taken to Tim Walz so much. Because there's a guy who did not forget where he came from. I can't even, was it Chardon State or something he went to, and was it Montana or somewhere? Some place that no one's ever heard of. At least I've never heard of. And got a good education, went on to be a great social studies teacher, a good coach, and now going to be our vice president, as opposed to a guy like J.D. Vance, who had early struggles but figured out how to get into that Yale world, which got him into the big tech money, the billionaire money, and then coming around saying, well, you know, those universities, they're evil. I mean, there's a difference here for me, a pretty sizable one. And for me, I want to go with the guy who's a decent guy. I want to go with someone who has struggled a little bit because, hey, I remember how hard it was. And I want to help the person behind me to get ahead instead of trying to hold them down. I guess that's the message for me. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Something I said got on your nerves, under your skin, made you think. Want to hear it? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Miss any portion of the program, grab the podcast, freespeech.org for the video. And as always, thanks so much for being here.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.